In this video, Stings, we will look at factoring by grouping. So to factor by grouping, you use this whenever you have four terms in your polynomial. For example, m squared plus m plus 4m plus 4. Here I have four terms, and the first thing I'm going to do is set up my groups. They will always have a plus sign between them. The first two terms go in the first set of parentheses. The second two terms go into the second set of parentheses. Then what we do is we look at each set individually. What is the greatest common factor of m squared and m? That would be an m. And the other factor will be m plus 1. I'm going to add to that. The greatest common factor here for the second set is 4. And then we have an m plus 1. Now I have a binomial that has these two factors for its first term and these two factors for its second term. This m plus 1 is our greatest common factor for this set. So we're going to pull it out front. And what do I multiply by m plus 1 to get m times m plus 1? M. And what do I multiply by m plus 1 to get 4m plus 1? And that is a 4. Now I have my two binomials that I multiply together to get this situation. So let's look at another example with everything positive. So this will be example 2. So we're going to look at b squared plus 4b plus 3b plus 12. Again, set up the two groups. Put the first two terms in the first group, the last two terms in the second group. Look at the first group. What is their greatest common factor? B. What's left inside? B plus 4. Greatest common factor of 3b and 12 is 3. And we factor, or what's left then is b plus 4. Now again we have the greatest common factor being a binomial. So we end up with our greatest common factor times what's left. Now let's try one with some negative signs. Excuse me. Let's do example 3. And that is going to be n squared plus n minus 5n minus 5. So we set up our two groups, always a plus sign between them. We put n squared plus n in the first group, and here remember this sign goes with this number, so we put negative 5n minus 5 in our second group. So we put the first two here, we always have a plus sign here, and then we have the rest of it, the negative 5n minus 5 is our second group. N squared plus n, have n as a common factor, leaving n plus 1. Negative 5n minus 5, have negative 5 as a common factor, leaving an n plus 1. Negative 5 times n is negative 5n. Negative 5 times positive 1 is negative 5. Now we have our n plus 1, which is our common factor, and we're left with an n and a minus 5. So there's our factored form of that polynomial. Let's try one more example. So example 4. This is going to be 10a squared minus 15a minus 4a plus 6. So we set up our two groups, put the first two terms in the first group, put the last two terms in the second group. 10a squared minus 15a have 5a as a common factor. To get 10a squared, I have to multiply 2a times 5a to get 10a squared. To get minus 15, I need a negative 3, because I already have the a out front. Now looking at the negative 4 and the 6, because this negative 4a is negative, we're going to pull out a negative sign. Anytime this term here is negative, you're going to have a minus sign right here. What do 4 and 6 have in common? 2. So then inside I end up with 2a, because negative 2 times 2a is negative 4a. So then what do I multiply by a negative 2 to get a positive 6? I need a negative 3. So now we have the 2a minus 3 as our common factor, or greatest common factor, and then 5a minus 2 is what is left. And this is the factored form of this polynomial with 4 terms.